Welcome to Telli Bear's Techy Tidbits, lovingly hosted by AI. So, picture this. Your neighborhood has had this super calm, totally predictable potluck every year for, forever. But this year, a new family moves in, and they have an appetite that could empty a buffet in, 5 minutes flat. Well, believe it or not, that's kind of what's happening to America's power grid right now.
You see, for more than 10 years, how much electricity we used in the US was basically flat. It was just like that potluck. Everyone knew exactly how much 7-layer dip to bring. No drama, no surprises. The whole thing was stable, predictable, and, let's be honest, maybe a little boring. In fact, through the 2010s, our annual energy growth was just 0.2%. That's it. In potluck terms, that's like one person showing up with a single extra saltine cracker each year. You probably wouldn't even notice it was gone. But then, all of a sudden, the doorbell rings. It's the new neighbor. They take one look at the potluck spread, and their stomach rumbles so loud it practically rattles the windows. And just like that, the quiet, predictable party was over. Because the new forecast for how much our energy use is going to grow each year is a whopping 5.7%. I mean, that is a gigantic leap. We're not talking about one extra cracker anymore. This is like your new neighbor inhaling the entire cheese platter, finishing the dip, and now they're giving your grandma's Jell-O salad the side-eye. What's really wild here is just the sheer scale of the change. I mean, look at that tiny little bar on the left. That represents an entire decade of growth. Now look at the skyscraper next to it. That's our new reality. The appetite for electricity isn't just growing, it's absolutely exploding. Which, of course, leads to the multi-gigawatt question, who is this new neighbor with the bottomless stomach? What in the world is using up so much power all of a sudden? Well, let's meet him. AI data centers. These are the giant, super smart brains behind all the AI that we're starting to use. And to do all that thinking, they need a mind-boggling, almost unbelievable amount of electricity. They're the reason the potluck is in serious trouble. Okay, Section 1. Let's really dig into this voracious new appetite and see what this power surge really means. Which brings us to Section 2. Who's paying for dinner? I mean, if the new neighbors are eating all the food, who's stuck with the grocery bill? Let's figure out who's supposed to be paying for all this. Now, the big tech companies building all these data centers say they're happy to pay their fair share. But, as Ari Pesco over at Harvard points out, that's a pretty squishy term. What's fair can mean totally different things depending on who you're talking to, and that's where it all gets kind of complicated.
All right, let's break it down using our potluck metaphor. There are basically two big ways these data centers can make your electricity bill go up. First, there's what we'll call the new grill. That's the cost of building brand new stuff like massive power lines just to serve these new guys. Then there are the expensive groceries. When demand for something shoots through the roof, the price of the thing itself, the electricity, can get more expensive for everyone at the party.
So how are these new neighbors handling it? Well, some are trying to be really considerate. Microsoft, for example, has this 5-point plan. They're promising to pay their own way so our prices don't go up, create local jobs, and even help replenish local water supplies.
And they're not the only ones. Anthropic, another big name in AI, is making some similar pledges. They're committing to cover 100% of the costs for grid upgrades and are even investing in ways to use less power when everyone else is using a lot, which helps keep the whole system stable. And yep, OpenAI, with their huge Stargate project, is singing the same tune. They've also committed to paying their own way on energy and investing in local job training. So the really important thing here is that the biggest players in the industry are all publicly promising, "Don't worry, we'll cover our own tab." Okay, but promises are one thing, right? Action is another. So what actually happens when these data centers move into town? Let's talk about the difference between good neighbors and, well, bad neighbors. So a good neighbor data center would basically follow a checklist like this one. They foot the bill for their own power, they hire people who live there, they're smart about water, and they actually invest in making the community a better place. That's the dream scenario. But sometimes things get messy. The promises kind of fade into the background, and what's left behind is a situation that can get noisy, hazy, and frankly not very healthy for the people who actually live there.
And this isn't just some hypothetical problem in one or two small towns. This map shows that data centers are popping up all over the country. From the big, established markets to brand new places where power is still cheap and easy to get, the new neighbors are moving in everywhere.
And this brings us to a real-world conflict. Down in Mississippi and Tennessee, the NAACP has gotten involved. Their director, Aubrey Connor, put it very powerfully. Our communities are not playgrounds for corporations who are chasing profit over people. This is where the potluck starts to get really tense.
And here's why. Elon Musk's company, xAI, is actually facing lawsuits over how it's running its data centers. The allegations are really serious. We're talking about using 27 gas turbines without permits in Mississippi, which basically act like an illegal power plant. They're also accused of polluting nearby black communities with nasty chemicals like formaldehyde. This is the bad neighbor scenario playing out in real life.
Okay, Section 4. This massive, totally unprecedented growth and the messes it's causing, it means the old rules just don't work anymore. So now the entire country is scrambling to try and rewrite the neighborhood rulebook.
So, who writes these rules? Meet FERC. That's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. If you think of our power grid as a giant system of electricity superhighways, then FERC is kind of like the Department of Transportation. They're the ones who set the speed limits and the rules of the road for everybody. They're the ultimate authority here.
And this is one of the huge questions FERC is trying to figure out right now. When a giant new data center moves in, should they have to pay for 100% of the new power lines and all the gear they need, or should those costs get spread out and shared by everyone in the neighborhood? It's a really fundamental debate about what's fair.
If there's one thing you remember from this, let it be this. The AI feast, this massive new appetite for power, is so huge and happens so fast that it's forcing us to completely rethink and rewrite the entire recipe book for how we make and move electricity in this country.
The thing is, this AI potluck is really just getting started. The new neighbors have only just pulled up a chair. So the real question for all of us is, how do we set the table rules to make sure everyone gets a fair slice without completely wrecking the party for the rest of the neighborhood? Thank you for listening to Telli Bear's Techy Tidbits. I hope you have a magical day. Stay curious, stay kind, stay safe.